Hello everybody, this is Eram from Alamkul and today we will be discussing about the very first chapter of class 9, which is matter and our surrounding, and these are the chapters checklist. So we will go step by step, topic wise. Your first topic is matter, second is states of matter, change of states of matter, effect of change of temperature, pressure, evaporation and plasma and bone Einstein condensation. Okay, so today we will learn about the states of matter. So there are three states of matter: your solid state, liquid state, and your gaseous state. And today we will discuss all three. So first we will discuss about what is a solid state. What is solid? So here, this is the very first point, like definite shape, distinct boundaries, and fixed volumes. Like if this is a pencil, this pencil is having some shape and it's having a volume also, right? This is the shape and the volume of this pencil. So a definite shape, distinct boundaries, and a fixed volume. And this pencil is also having some kind of a volume. Let's say this, the phone which I'm using or the iPad which I'm using, everything is having like they have a definite shape and they have a fixed volume. And here, solid state is what? Solid state is a particles. Solid state is made up of a particles and it's having a very strong force of attraction. Okay, like इतना ज्यादा force of attraction है that the particles can't move here and there, so they can particles can't move here and there, and so they can only vibrate in their fixed position. They don't have the capacity to move here and there. Why? Because they are very strongly connected, very strongly attracted. Like here, if there's a one diagram, this is a solid. ठीक है, अब ये देख लो, इसमें सारे जो पार्टिकल्स हैं वो क्या है, बहुत ही ज्यादा स्ट्रांगली जो है वो अटैच्ड है एक दूसरे से. So they don't have the capacity to move here and there, but they will vibrate in their own fixed position, but they can't move. Why? Because there is a very strong force of attraction between each particles. That's why they can't move here and there. Okay, so this part is clear. Now next is what? The tendency to maintain their shape when they're subjected to outside force. They have the tendency, they can maintain their shape, they have a volume. Solids either do not diffuse or diffuses at a very low rate. Now what is diffuse? Diffuse मतलब होता है जैसे कि if let's say there's a beaker, in that beaker there's a water, and if I'm pouring some 1-2 drop of ink on that beaker, so what they diffuse with each other, right? The water and the milk. So here solids basically they don't diffuse, but some exceptions are there, which is a metal. Some kind of a metals they diffuses with each other. Now next point is solids may break under force, but it is very difficult to change their shape, so they are rigid. Solids may break into force, but it is very difficult to change their shape as they are rigid. Now, what's the meaning of rigid? Rigid means tendency to maintain shape. They maintain their shape. They are very rigid. Rigid मतलब वो था जो कि अपने shape से change ना. जैसे if this is a pencil and if I'm pressing this pencil is not changing the shape. This is as it is. So that's a solid. It may break if you will apply some kind of force in this pencil. This pencil may break, but it's not having the tendency to change their shape. Why? Because this is a rigid. Rigid means the tendency which maintains a shape and a fixed volume. What's the fifth point? Fifth point is that solids have higher densities as compared to liquid or gas. Now, what is the meaning of density? Density मतलब क्या होता है? अब जैसे for example in a forest, we say ना, okay, that this is a very dense forest. Why dense forest? Because यहाँ पे a tree है, and again next to tree, next बहुत सारे trees होते हैं. So that's why the forest is called a very dense forest, because there's a lots of trees, है ना, बहुत सारे trees होते हैं. So इसीलिए उसको क्या बोलते हैं? Very dense forest. If let's say the tree is here and again the next tree is over here, so this is kind of not dense. This is like a park, है ना? So dense matlab ki if the trees is here and the next tree is over here, the next tree is over here, that's like a dense. So if we will come to chemistry, if we will apply the same logic to chemistry, so it means that all the particles are very strongly connected to each other. They have a very high density. They have a very strong force of attraction between each other. Like each particles, they have a very strong force of attraction. Just like the tree, they are lying next to each other. They are not very far away from each other. So here also the particles which is having a very strong force and they are very strongly connected to each other. That's why they are known as a high density. So here solids have higher densities as compared to the liquids and gas. Now again we will see this diagram. As you can see here that this is a solid which is a very dense kind of a, like this is a tree. Let's say this is also a tree. Let's say all these particles are trees. So all the particles, all the trees are lying next to each other. So this is what this means, that the trees or the particles are very strongly connected to each other in case of solid. But if we will see in case of a liquid, here you can see one tree is over here, the another tree is over here. So This is also kind of a dense, but this is not more dense than solid, but this is more dense than gas. Why? Because in gas, as you can see, that here they have a very weakest force of attraction as compared to all these two, the solids and the liquids. The gas is having the very weakest force of attraction. यहाँ पर अगर हम लोग देखें तो trees क्या है, बहुत दूर दूर है. It's like a park. है? It's not like a forest. So in forest we say that forest is very dense, but we can't say कि park बहुत dense है. ऐसा तो नहीं कहते, हमेशा कहते हैं forest बहुत dense है. Why? Because the particles are very, the trees are very strongly connected to each other. They are next to each other. That's why. Okay. So this part is clear. Dense wala part. Sorry. So here, what is this? The sugar, sand, rocks, stones, copper, aluminium, all are the examples of substance which exist in the solid state. Okay, so these are the examples. Your sugar, your sand, your rocks, stone, ये सब किसके examples हैं? सारे जो हैं वो solid state examples. Now this is a formula, mass per unit volume of a substance, which is known as the density. Density is what? Your mass upon your volume. Okay, so this formula you have to memorize. Very simple formula, m by v. Now here in the solids, there are some exceptions because chemistry is full of exceptions. So here, if we will say rubber is a solid or something else, but rubber is a type of elastic solids. Why? Because if we stretch a rubber, then the rubber will change their shape. But if we will, when we will, जब हम लोग उसको stretch नहीं करते, then what will happen? It will regain their shape when external forces removed. What will happen when we will stretch it? It will change the shape, and this rubber regain their shape when the external forces are removed. So when I am not stretching, then it regains their shape. ठीक है, जैसे ये मान लो एक रबर है, अब इसको हम लोग stretch करें. If I am stretching this rubber, so let's say this is a rubber, and if I removed any external force applying by myself, I removed. So what happened? It regained the shape when the external force is removed. So this is known as the elastic solids. ठीक है, जो अपने shape में वापस आ जाए, if the external force is not applying, so that is known as your elastic solids. Now, what are the plastic solids? Like your clay. Clay is your plastic solids. Natural shape regain. No. Why? Because अब देखो जैसे clay है, we all play with clay ना. If we small, so यहाँ पर क्या होता है कि अगर हम लोग clay के साथ खेल रहे हैं, if we press a clay, let's say, तो नहीं clay वाला part जो है वो कट कर देंगे. यहाँ पर clay is what? So this plastic solids, elastic solids are done. Now we will see what is this clay. Clay is a type of a plastic solid. So there are two extra type of the solids in this solid state. One is your elastic solid, and the next one is your plastic solid. Elastic solid mein, the example is a rubber band, and the plastic solid is a clay. Okay, so this is done. The solid state part is done. First was, we will again revise. Second, your liquid state. Now, what is liquid state? They do not have a definite shape. That is, they take up the shape of a container in which they are kept. Yes, so the liquids do not have their own shape. Let's say this is a beaker, and if I'm pouring a water in this beaker, so the water took the shape of a beaker. And let's say this is a pool, and if I'm pouring the water in a pool, so the water takes the shape of a pool. So water is not having their own shape, so they do not have any definite shape. Liquids change shape, so they are not rigid. हाँ, liquids जो है अपना change करता है shape, so they are not rigid. Okay, what's the meaning of rigid? Rigid means the tendency to maintain their shape, but the solids do not have any tendency to maintain their shape, so they are not rigid. वो rigid नहीं होता. So here I wrote what is rigid? Tendency to maintain shape, but in case of liquid is not having any tendency to maintain a shape. जिसमें भी liquid डाल दो किसी भी container में, so the liquid will change their shape according to that particular container. So it's not having their own shape. They are not rigid. Next, solid, liquid, and gases can diffuse into liquids. For example, sugar in water. Yes, your oxygen which is dissolved in water, and the alcohol which is dissolved in water. This is your solid. Oxygen is your gas, and alcohol is your liquids. So all these three are dissolved in water. Okay, so fourth point, the attraction force, the attraction force between the particle of liquid is greater than that of gas, but less than that of a solid. Now, the attraction force between the particles of liquid is greater than that of a gas. So, this diagram only, here you can see the attraction force of this liquid is greater than your gas, but it is not greater than solid, because here in the solid, they have a very strong force of attraction. In the gas, they have very weakest force of attraction, but the liquid is having like strong force of attraction with respect to your gas, but not with solid. क्योंकि solid का सबसे ज्यादा होता है, ठीक है? Density of a liquid is generally less than of the solid, and also the density is less because, as you can see here more trees means very dense forest, means the strongest force of attraction. Here there's not much trees, more trees, so here the very it is not dense. Okay. तो अब यहाँ पर जैसे example है water, milk, juice, oil, kerosene, alcohol, etc. are the examples of the substance exist in the liquid state. So these are the substances which are existing in the liquid state. So this is the example. Next, what is your gaseous state? Gases neither have a definite shape nor a definite volume. Gas का ना ही कोई shape होता है ना ही कोई volume होती है. Like if I am teaching you in the surrounding there's a oxygen, so I can't like दिख तो नहीं रहा है ना कहाँ है oxygen. It's not having a shape. It's not having a volume also. Gases have a maximum fluidity and least rigidity. Rigidity means tendency to maintain a shape, but gases do not have any tendency to maintain a shape, but they have a maximum fluidity. Maximum fluidity means the force of attraction is very weak over here. That's why they are having a maximum fluidity. But in the solid, the maximum fluidity is not there. Why? Because they have a very strongest force of attraction. But in the gas, they have a maximum fluidity because the attraction over here is very weak. Gases are highly compressible. Compressible means if pressure we will apply, then the gas will compress. For example, the LPG gas which is used in our home for cooking, or the oxygen which is applied to to hospitals and cylinders is a compressed gas. अब इसमें क्या है कि जैसे cylinder है, if in the kitchen we use the cylinders, तो उसमें gas आता है, so there's a very क्या होता है वो एक तरीके का LPG gas है, which is a compressed gas. Okay. Next point. The particles move about randomly at high speed. Due to this random movement, gases exert pressure. Now, what's the meaning of gases exert pressure? For example, let's take example of a balloon. So, if we are filling more and more gas to a balloon, so what will happen? एक समय के बाद क्या होता है? That balloon blast. है ना? So, if we are exerting more pressure on the walls of a container in which they kept. So the particles move randomly at a very high speed. Due to this random movement, the gases will exert a pressure on the walls of the containers, just like this is a balloon, and here the lots of particles are there. Now what is happening, this particles is exerting pressure to the outside wall, to the outside area of the balloon. Now what will happen if particle is exerting pressure to the outside wall? क्या होगा, blast हो जाएगा. ठीक है. So example of a balloon is very good in this gases exert pressure. Last point, the density of gas is minimum. A gas is much lighter than the same volume of a solid and a gas. Same example, the density, यहाँ पर क्या है, there are not more trees. This looks like a park, not forest. That's why here the density is very less, because this is a park. और park में क्या होता है कि ज़्यादा plants जो हैं वो दूर दूर में होते हैं. They are not very close to each other. ठीक है. So here in the solid, this is more dense. Why? Because this looks like a forest. Here in this gas, this looks like a park. So they have a very weakest force of attraction, and the liquid is medium. Okay, so these are the motion of particles can be seen and compressed in the three states of matter. So these three states of matter we discussed. Solid state, solid is a particle, solid is made up of a particle, so they have a very strong force of attraction. The particles can't move here and there. Why? Because they are very strongly connected to each other. आप कोई भी चीज को बहुत strongly connect कर लो तो क्या होगा? They can't move. Like if अगर मान लो बहुत सारे friends हैं, so they are holding their hands very tightly. So what will happen? We can't move the hands of the friends एक दूसरे से, right? So they can vibrate or they can move in their own position, but they can't move. They can only vibrate, or they can only change their shape, or they can only move their hands or legs in their own fixed position. So the spaces in the solids is very negligible. Negligible मतलब होता है कि एकदम ना के बराबर. The spaces are here is very negligible, as you can see. कि space जो है वो है ही नहीं, right? Spaces are very negligible. So this is our solid. They have definite shape. They have a fixed volume, tendency to maintain their shape when subjected to outside force, and solids either diffuse or they do not diffuse. Solids may break, and but it is difficult to change their shape. Why? Because they're very rigid. And what is rigid? Rigid means the tendency to maintain a shape. And solids have high densities. So densities means forest. Okay, forest example यहाँ पर ले लेना. The two more points in this solids, which is the rubber band, the elastic solids, and clay, which is known as the plastic solid. Okay, so the liquid one, it's also like do not have any shape, and so they are not rigid. And this is the example. And here the attraction force between the particles of liquid is greater than the gas, because gas is like a park, but less than solids because solids are like a forest. Density of a liquid is generally less than of its solid form. The density जो होती है वो solid से जो होती है वो कम होती है. And some exceptions, solid ice is lighter than water as it floats on a water. So this is the exception of a liquid state. So gaseous state, gases neither have a definite shape nor a volume, and they have a maximum fluidity. Why maximum fluidity? Maximum fluidity means where the force of attraction is very weak, so that's known as the maximum fluidity. This is your LPG, the very compressed gas. Gases exert pressure. You can take example of a balloon. In the balloon, what is happening? The particles are moving at a very high speed and they exert pressure on the walls of the balloon. So what will happen? It blast. The density of gas is minimum because it's like a path. Okay, so all three states of matter done. And in the next class, we will talk about your physical nature of matter. Okay, in the next class, we will talk about the changes of the states of matter, effects of the change of temperature. We will go through steps by step. So that's it for today. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and keep learning, keep watching. Thank you. Bye. Take care.